Yeah, there's so much stuff going around, and
Two things I have tomorrow night. Oh, I
I'm doing pretty good. I'm nice. They win.
so my kids have all been sick and stuff, and so far I've been.
You would think with people that we see coming and going, that, well, you see a lot too, so that.
Oh, Marysville.
I see a lot, and I
Girls?
get in a lot of,
Probably just about over.
But I did get my booster and
Depending
got
on
my
how
flu
many
shot
fouls
and
you're
all
getting
that.
called.
That does make a
9
difference.
Marysville fouls to
Sometimes.
1
Some years it
Concordia.
doesn't, some years it,
That's
but this year so far it seems like it did
Not
make a
quite
difference, at
accurate,
least for me.
but, whatever.
Yeah. Even the junior high basketball games, it's interesting to see the differences.
Really fun in Wamego last night when they were running their press when we were down 40 points.
That's Wamego though.
That's
Wamego.
I was very
They were running the
displeased.
press even when they were down 40 points.
They have a freshman girl, I think.
Well, this was junior high last night. Tonight there's an 8th grade girl at Clay Center who's like phenomenal. Like she would start on any high school team in the league. That's unbelievable.
Ready.
Calls me to order.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Fry,
Present.
Keating, Snelling, Bikeman,
Present.
Garacki,
Present.
Price,
Present.
Barons,
Here.
Trump. Here.
All right, first up we have the approval of the minutes from the meeting on November 28th.
Move to approve the regular minutes, November 28, 2022, as written.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0. Next up we have public comment. Is anybody here for 5-minute public comment? Yes.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Council,
Hello? Vicki.
City Clerk, City Administrator, and City Attorney. My name is Vicki Gross. I reside at 301 Carolina Street, Marysville, Ward 3. I am here tonight following up to the monster container letter that was written to the editor in this past week's Advocate. Many people share the same opinion of these containers. They are called intermodal containers. They are boxcars to me. They belong on the railroad, not sitting in people's yards. This council over the past 5 years has sent to Planning and Zoning asking that they give their opinion of whether or not these containers should be put in our city. First time it came to Planning and Zoning, the answer was unanimously no. They belong nowhere in Marysville. Sent it back to the council, and council again tabled it. Came back, a year later, asking the same thing. What do you think about these? Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission said, I thought we've been through this. No, we haven't changed our mind. They have no place in Marysville. Now, third time you sent it back to us, it came back, and you said, we're going to do it anyway. We're just going to give you the opportunity to put on the conditions under which you would accept it. After we talked about it, it was decided we wouldn't accept it under any circumstances in Marysville. But in order to have a voice, we did put some restrictions and send it back to you. Or we would have not a say in it anyway. These are intelligent people who have Marysville's better living conditions and growth in mind. They own businesses. They operate businesses here. They've decided to live here in Marysville. They are construction people. They build buildings. These are a wise bunch of people. And that you're not interested in their opinion, I am surprised. After you sent it back to us and said, we don't care what you say, we are going to put these containers in. You just get to say or offer us possibilities of rules for them. We invited every one of you to come to our meeting to discuss this, to hear what we had to say. Nobody showed up.
Wait a minute, when was the invite?
Yeah, well, I
Never
never
got
got an
an invite.
invite.
Never got an
Okay, well, I
invite.
even called Will and said, did you invite them? He said, I invited every one of them.
I never got an invite.
I never got one.
None. So there's your first problem.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I did ask before I came up here to see if indeed you had gotten your invitations, because we really would like to have told you why. You know, why. And it is that they are intermodal containers. Would you want one on the left side of your house? You open your blinds and there sits a white shipping container. You don't get to see past it. You don't get to see the yard next door. You don't get to see trees. You see a shipping container, 40 feet of shipping container. Now your neighbor on the right decides he wants one too. So now you open your blinds over here and what do you see? Shipping container. I know because one sits beside my property, 10 feet off my property line.
That'd be mine.
That would be the
That'd
mayor's.
be mine.
And for the last 2 years, I've been able to read the name of who was shipping in that container. It was Cisco. They show through letters 2 feet tall in blue. You can see them. Not attractive. It blocks off the breeze across the property. When the sun shines on it, it reflects back onto the property. There's really no shade. And I would hope that when you ask planning and zoning what their opinion is, that you would take it more seriously. Or you would say why you want to do this. There are other options besides these shipping containers. You can buy Morton buildings. You can build your own buildings. You can have a storage building that isn't a shipping container that sits on the ground and looks like it doesn't belong and looks like you have used the cheap way. We want our town to grow by businesses coming here. If someone came into Marysville and they wanted to get a first impression, they go through the neighborhoods and they see shipping containers. I don't think that gives a very good impression of them wanting to bring their employees, their families here to live in Marysville. We just want what's best for the whole city, not just 1 or 2 people, 5 people, 10 people who want shipping containers sitting in their yard, because I don't think they're going to sit it next to their house. They're going to sit it as far away as possible, which is going to put it next to someone else's house. And I don't think that that is what we want to do to our neighborhoods. I thank you for listening to me. I hope you will consider what I have to say because this is the same opinion of every member of Planning and Zoning. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to clarify something. I did bring back their, not necessarily in an invite form, but they wanted more discussion and they wanted some people to attend. That
I
was
remember that.
that was the invite.
Okay.
And then the decision of the council was to send back guidance versus trying to have that talk.
So an invitation was issued, you just didn't understand that that's what the topic of discussion was?
No, it's
Well,
just,
I think council thought that you just wanted some more guidance or input or.
We were
a
giving
list of
input and
things that
guidance to
council
you.
wanted, I think, is.
You
I
were
think that's-
seeking our guidance.
Yeah. Well, I thought that when Will talked to us, I think that there was a little bit of misunderstanding and Will thought that the planning commission wanted some more guidance from council of what exactly what exactly council was thinking. A little lined out a little bit more clearly for them to discuss, I think is what.
Okay, well, we had never gotten
That's
any.
kind of what I remember
And
too.
I think council discussed it and then sent a little list, I think, after that, or a few top bullet points, I think. Right. And sent it back to them.
Wish we had had an opportunity to have an open discussion because I've not heard anyone say why you think this is a really good idea. When there are,
I'll tell you why I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
Would that be okay?
sure, please.
Okay. I think it's a good idea because I think properly structured, it's probably more attractive than a lot of the homemade options that people would do. It may be a cheap option to one person, but it's an economical option to another. As someone who's been doing quite a bit of work on what buildings cost here lately, I can say it's not necessarily in all circumstances going to be the most economical option, but versus maybe use tin or some other thing that we have no ordinance that says that's not allowed. I think a nicely evenly painted structure is preferable. I also think that I understand why some people wouldn't like it beside their house, but there's a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't like beside their beside their house, but within a reason, because there has to be a setback. I mean, in most zoning, this would fall under a lot of that. It wouldn't be right up against their house. And to be honest with you, some days I'd rather have that than some of the other things I see beside my house. So I can't be the only one who thinks that way. So I think under certain circumstances, it does make sense, and I think with a lot of restrictions. I agree with you, you shouldn't have to read it, it shouldn't be rusty, it shouldn't be an eyesore, but I think properly controlled, it's a better alternative than things that are technically allowed now.
Well, I don't know what they are because we're busy on planning and zoning, and things come to us if they're brought properly the way they should be to planning and zoning. Like I said, there are some well-informed people on this Planning and Zoning Commission. They think of the entire whole of Marysville and if it is best for our town. They're really conscientious about that. And if there's some ratty thing is going up near you, it needs to be brought to our
But see,
our
there's a
zoning
lot of-
czar.
Well, no, I agree, and I'm not gonna denigrate the work they do, because it's a volunteer job, and
Yes.
it's pretty thankless.
Yes,
And I do appreciate what they do. And I appreciate, the way they advise us. That's why, I think, why we wanted them to be part of the discussion, is because we know that they are subject matter experts in various things.
yes,
And they're gonna know things that we don't. And
Yes.
we might see things that they don't, and that's why together we can craft better legislation. Personally, I don't feel like the best legislation in almost any case is black and white. And I think that we're trying to find that gray area and try to find some definition in a way to, I don't know, solve multiple problems with multiple possible consequences, if that makes sense.
yes. I don't like accepted or proof upon demand. Is that how that is? That you will take it in and consider this guy and tell him yes, and you'll consider the guy next door and tell him no. I think that bodes poorly for
Be consistent.
fair, yes, for fair and consistent legislation of your town.
No, I mean, I appreciate any and all input. I think everyone who gives me input, whether I agree with them or whether I think that they're outlandish in their ideas, but I do have, you asked, so I
Please.
do have my reasons for
Please.
why I think this isn't a bad idea to pursue and why I'm in favor of it. And I understand that it's going to have to be carefully done.
Well, anybody who has any doubt about what these look like, please, you're welcome to come sit in my garden. I have a swing there. Sit in that garden and sit there and look at that 40-foot container that sits 10 feet off your property line because it doesn't look that small. It doesn't look like it's 10 feet away. And if you would
Here's-
want that sitting next to your,
Here's the thing, though, where that's at. I mean, that's zone commercial, and if I wanted to, I could put up a 100-foot-long building right on the property.
True,
line there.
that's
I
very
mean-
true.
I mean, I could put theoretically whatever I want up there, and it's probably gonna block your view.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I'd love to leave it all green space, but I'm trying to operate a business, and I have to have space to put stuff. I mean, unfortunately.
you can do that, but probably the buildings are going to have windows and they're going to look like buildings. They're not going to look like I'm sitting here next to a train
Garages
track.
generally don't have a lot of windows in them.
Well, then that'd be
I mean,
okay with me. That would be okay
I
with
don't know,
me.
I'm getting ready to have an industrial building put up in my neighborhood I'm not impressed with.
Next to your house?
Yeah,
Did it come through planning and zoning?
no,
Is it supposed to?
no,
Okay.
so you have no regulation over it.
Do you find that we have missed something?
Well,
didn't say you
it's-
missed anything. I
it's
just said I don't
zoned,
like
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's what it's zoned. I mean, every person has control over their own land, and the neighbor's a lot of times not gonna be happy with what they do, but it's, I mean, if it's your property and it's allowed, then.
If
I mean,
it's
then
allowed.
it's up to, then it's allowed, then it's up to the
I'm asking
landowner to
you,
decide what they do or don't wanna do.
I'm asking you for the neighborhood's sake that this is one thing you should not allow in neighborhoods. And the rest of my commission, the rest of planning and zoning, they don't want it anywhere. They don't want it in industrial, they don't want it commercial.
I will tell you, I'm not a big fan of residential, and I will also say this, is like when people talk about a 40-foot container, it's more difficult than you think to just put one in your backyard, because you have to have room to get a semi in there and get it backed up. I mean, how they put mine in there was I've got an empty lot, so they drove up in my empty lot
Okay.
and backed in there. But most people don't own property on both
Like you
sides of
do,
the
yeah.
alley that they can do that, so there's
Well-
not that many. I mean, you're not you're not gonna sit, if you got 40 feet behind your house, you're not gonna be throwing one of those things back behind there. You still gotta have your offsets, and you're not gonna be able to fit something like that in there.
You own property on both sides of my lot.
Yeah.
And my fear is that the next one, because I've heard you talk about getting another one, and I'm thinking you're going to put it right on the west side of my lot, rendering my lot nearly
Oh, no, no. If I
without
build something
anyone
there,
wanting
it's
to
gonna
buy
be a
it.
building. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna tie up that corner lot with storage containers.
Well, that's why I
If I
thought you
build
would bring it
something
off
there,
the corner.
It'll be a building, but it'll be the same as a storage container. It'll be right on the property line, probably 60 feet long instead of 40, I'm just saying.
That's why we have zoning. That's why, and I wouldn't have a problem with that because
But
it would
it's,
be
I
within
mean-
the zoning rules and regulations.
But I mean, if you're saying that you don't like to obstruct view, I'm saying that I can build a 60 or 80-foot building, and it's also gonna obstruct your view, and it's gonna be probably metal siding, just like a storage container, basically. It's gonna have a roof, a pitched roof instead of a flat roof, and that's about the only difference, really.
And that will be a store. That will be your place of business, and people understand that.
Yeah.
It's not a boxcar. It's not a railroad storage container that is in a spot it shouldn't be.
And some people build houses with those storage containers.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've
So that's
seen
what
that.
what
And-
started this discussion.
And I will also say, I mean, I tore down 2 houses that were definitely blight, and I would say that the storage container that I put in there looks better than either of the houses that I tore down.
And you're
Because they
absolutely
were
right.
terrible, and that cost me quite a bit of money. I didn't get any I didn't get any help with tearing either of those down, I just did it,
You're
which
absolutely
cost
right.
me. And then
You
had to
did.
haul in dirt and fill in the basements and all that. And so in my mind, I've done a lot of cleaning up, and it's cost me a lot of money to do that, and a lot of it I just mow. And that was when I put that in there, I'm thinking, I'm mowing 5 lots, I'm paying for a storage unit, why don't I buy a container and I can put power to it, and I'm not paying rent every month, and I've got twice the space as a storage unit would be,
I
and
just
it's
don't know-
mine.
I just don't know why you don't put a building in there. The
Because,
boxcars don't
look,
belong in
I'd love to
residential.
have a lot of buildings, it's a money thing. I mean, I'm trying to do this as I can afford things.
And I think part of the idea with this is it would look to the very lay person like a building, in that it would be a uniform color, it would be a uniform structure, just like the side of a tin building. So to look at it, a 40-foot building that is made out of sheet tin over red iron or lumber with a pitched roof versus a 40-foot container with a pitched roof, potato, right?
This container doesn't have a pitched roof.
Right.
Just come down and sit there and look at that, and you tell me you don't know that's a boxcar.
But that's part of why we wanted to carefully craft this so that it would look like, for all intents and purposes, it would look like a regular building and not like a boxcar. Although I think a boxcar would be a lot cooler because, you know.
You can have the one that's sitting next to me if you can get the mayor to move it up there.
If I had
Thank
someone to go with all
you.
the
Thank you,
stuff in
ladies
there,
and
yeah.
gentlemen.
Vicki, what's the deal on the, like, commercial and residential, or commercial and industrial? You know, we've got some businesses here in town that have them.
Well, they're grandfathered in. Sure, there's some here, there's one that's red. We can't do a thing about it because it came out before there were any ordinances. And you all have tabled this for the last 5 years. I mean, the council has changed some. But yeah, they wouldn't have them in here anywhere. And what can we do? Once they're here, this is my fear too. Once you allow these in here, and then all of a sudden, they've moved into some people that are pretty influential, and they're going, you've got to get these boxcars out of here, and you can't do a thing about the ones that are here already. All you can do is wait for them to sell that house, and some of them aren't going to be here for another 50 years, and there's nothing you can do about it. Once you get a lot of them in town, and you're going, I didn't think about this. I didn't think about all these boxcars. Think about mine, a boxcar here and a boxcar here. And what if that happens to another neighbor, somebody else? Just think about that. If it was sitting off your property, how you would like that. Because it's going to happen to somebody sooner or later. Okay, thank you again. Thank you very much.
Right. Anybody else here for public comment? Yes. Hello?
Good evening. I'm Karen Hughes, and I reside on Jayhawk Road in Ward 2. Whenever I come home from driving north on Highway 77, and I come over the railroad overpass south of town, and I see the Welcome to Marysville sign, and I smile. And then I look over to the left and I see the black squirrel sign. And again, I smile. The Welcome to Marysville sign, it's warm, it's inviting, and it's informative. It's got a lot of information actually on it. On tonight's agenda, the city administrator is suggesting that the council get rid of one or both of these signs and place an oversized metal sign where the black squirrel sign currently is. After all the focus and effort to promote Marysville as Black Squirrel City, why would you even consider removing the black squirrel sign? The current Welcome to Marysville sign represents a Marysville in a very positive light, and it even has a thank you on the north side as you're leaving town. Very thoughtful. I don't care what you do with the oversized metal sign, but I certainly ask that the council leave the current Welcome to Marysville and black squirrel signs where they are and where they deserve to be. Also, I'd like to just address the issue shortly here about the issue of the intermodal containers. Before the council does anything, I hope you do a little bit more research before voting on this. What's presented tonight would add number 8 to section 10.3 of the Unified Land Development Code. This would add containers as a structure in R1 residential single-family districts. Do you really want to allow property owners to place an intermodal container as the main structure? I would assume that what you intended to do was to allow intermodal containers as accessory buildings. But that's not what's suggested by this change that you've got proposed. This is a serious issue. Furthermore, why would you only allow containers in R1 zones? That should be the last place they'd be allowed, not the first place. And then why are you changing the building permits to run out in a year? There aren't very many constructions that actually get accomplished in 1 year. I don't know why that was thrown in there. I would encourage the council to do a lot more research before you propose any placement of intermodal containers. And I do trust that there will be a public hearing before anything is voted on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else here for public comment? No? Okay. Next up, we don't have any notices and hearings. First, under business and discussion, we had the Kester House Museum request. I don't think, she's not here, is she?
She's not here.
Is she?
I did, she asked me some questions last night, and just an update, they are planning to fill the pipes with water tomorrow.
Okay.
They were working all day today, and half the day yesterday to get it sealed up. So they are planning, hopefully, getting it up and at least it filled with water tomorrow, and ready to go.
Make sure nothing else leaks.
Yes, they're going to overstaff the building while they fill it up, just to make sure they didn't miss anything. So that's the update on Kester House.
Right. Next up, we have the intermodal containers.
I will fill you in, if you do vote for this, a vote does send it to a public hearing status. So we have to advertise, we have to have a public hearing in the Planning Commission for this. It's not a one-stop shop. We have to send out notices, all that stuff. So that's just a preemptive. If you're changing anything in the LDC, we do have to have a public hearing and everything that goes along with that.
your thoughts? I didn't really see any problem with any of these. The only thing that I don't know, I can see a base underneath it. I don't know why a concrete pad underneath the entire thing. I just, and I mean, and maybe well, I know, and maybe the thought is, my thought process is if I gotta put a concrete pad underneath it, then why don't I just build a shop? I mean, because the concrete's expensive. And so you're putting it under, and those things have a floor in them. So you're basically putting concrete to cover it up with
I think
a container.
the intention, I assume, is so that creatures don't burrow under it, because if you put it on piers, they can live under it.
Mine's on rock, and I've not had.
Well, that's what I wondered.
I've not had an issue with them. I mean, I got the shed on skids too, and that
Right.
pushed rock up against there so they couldn't get underneath.
Right.
And most of the critters I got where I'm at are cats.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately,
Well,
more than the stray cats, more than anything.
I know
but-
there have been non-container structures in certain parts of town that have had badgers and all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
Finding
They'll
a way
get
to
in.
live under them.
Yeah, they will.
How would this adjust the anchored status then? That would have to change.
I don't know what the anchor, and that maybe they're thinking everybody's gonna leave them. And I would say I got so much junk in mine. When we had that storm, a hackberry tree snapped off, slid along the top of it, dented the top in a little bit, and then laid down, and it didn't move that container one bit. But I've got a lot of junk in
An
there.
empty one can be prone to, I think.
Probably.
I mean,
If it was empty, I mean, it'd have to be like probably tornado wind, but if that happens, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of stuff gone, besides just containers.
I mean, to me, concrete seems like overkill. I mean, solid surface, yes, whether that's rock or whatever. I mean, we don't require people to park on concrete. Why would we require containers with floors to sit on concrete? But I do think they should be anchored, just because, I mean, it'd be too easy for one. I think if wind did catch it and start pushing it, it would be quite the projectile to roll into something. Whereas a building's gonna mostly collapse on itself, or pieces of tin will go flying, but it's not gonna roll through the side of your house,
Well.
probably. They're pretty stout, I think.
I don't know. Last wind in June, there's a building lost its roof and smacked a neighbor's house.
Yeah.
Well, those will, yeah.
I had a sheet
and
of
I
tin
will-
go through a sheet of tin at my hangar, so I mean.
And I will say
it can
that,
do
I
a
mean,
lot.
that wind ruined a lot of stuff. My container was the one thing that didn't get ruined. The
Yeah.
back of the building next to it messed that all up, and my porch and trees and all that. My swing set blew out into the alley, but my storage container didn't move. I mean, I just think if you get into that, there's a lot of things that could blow around that
Sure.
probably should be anchored, but we don't require them to be. That are a lot lighter than a storage container,
Sure.
I'm just saying. I myself, I'm not a huge fan of residential areas, but
I'm not either.
commercial, I don't see, you know, if, and I hate to throw out names, but look, if you're Don Landau, is anybody gonna notice if you got a container out there with
got
all the
14 of 'em.
trailers? He's got 14, see, there you go, and nobody's noticed them evidently.
Notice them every day I drive by them,
But
along with the weeds that
are
were
you
6, 8
are you gonna
feet tall.
notice that when you're driving through town with all the trailers and vehicles and everything? I mean, it's a commercial, it's a business. I mean, you gotta expect that. It's just part of.
I'm fine with moving
doing it.
forward with what they got. Have a public hearing.
As residential. So I'm with the mayor that commercial would probably be a little bit more self-regulating, that there's gonna limit it to people that are gonna have the opportunity to put it on. And I'm also, I don't know though, because I'm also agree with Todd that, you know, it is a consolidation thing, that you could consolidate things into it and have it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for, instead of stuff everywhere. I've looked into them quite a bit. I mean, you can have them completely customized with roll top doors, broken down. I mean, you know, any color palette, you know, as far as matching it, as per the regulation of matching it with the color of your structure. So, yeah, I'm just a little bit, I'm with you that it's a little concerning that with residential, for sure. But I understand the purpose of it for a commercial lot, so. But,
I mean, I guess too, I mean, we have some areas that are residential that I think if it were in a different world, the city would gift them a container if they put all their junk in one. Because it looks so bad, and it's, to my eye, so much more of a detriment to that area. And there's nothing, I mean, we do what we can, but to an extent. I mean, there's only so much you can do on somebody owns, it's their property to do what they want with. And you just kind of, you live next door, it's your, you know, cross the bear sort of thing.
yeah.
So, I mean, I look at it the same as just about any other structure. I feel like it's almost strange to me to segment this out from any other type of structure when there are so many different kinds. I don't think a concrete wall would look good, but you know, a concrete wall would be really sturdy and almost a safety thing in some aspect. There's pluses and minuses to all structures.
True.
So I'm with Parker. I kind of feel like we can go to a public hearing, and that's a great way to get even more. I haven't had a lot of positive or negative feedback. I've had a little bit of both.
Yeah,
Same.
at least this
That's-
is regulated.
Right, and I think unregulated is not an option.
No.
Well, unregulated, somebody could build a shed out of pallets,
Well, yes,
and you're not gonna be impressed with that. 'cause
no.
Right now, we have a fence in this town that's built out of pallets.
Only one? I think we've got more than one.
Yeah, we've got a
I
few,
know
I
of
think.
one that's a major problem. And there's not anything we can do about it.
Right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
What do you got?
Well, has anybody looked at the zoning map and actually looked at this area that is actually R1? It's actually a small portion of the city. That's why, I mean, I'm so confused by why you've got it down under R1. There's RR, there's R2, there's C, there's industrial, there's rural, there's all these
Example.
other areas.
I think it was just an example that was.
Well, then that should be
in
made
there.
clear. When you're
Yeah.
putting things on the agenda, it needs to be clear what it is you're asking for. I sure hope that improves, because this was just, it was very unclear what was being proposed.
There's a lot of things with the zoning that, to me, sometimes don't make sense. I mean, it's kind of like down where Temps is at, everything, that's R3, I believe, is what it's zoned as. And I mean, he's operating a business out of there, which is fine, and he's been doing it for a long time, but it's still zoned residential 3, which in my mind, if you say residential, I'm thinking houses, I'm not thinking businesses and that. And then, like where I've got my stuff at C2, I believe, which is, you can have a house in there as long as it's grandfathered in, but if you take it down, you can't put a house back in there. It reverts to commercial, which they did
And
on my
it's mixed-
taxes when I took one.
It's mixed uses also.
It's mixed
Yeah.
use, but as soon as you
Well-
take down a house, you can't put a house
Right.
back there again.
But my point is that please, before you try to take this, because it's a lot, like Austin mentioned, you have to send out notices, all these things, before you have a public hearing, it's costly. Please get it right before you try to have the public hearing. And right now, it's not ready. I'm just, there's no way it is clear what it is you're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that map need to be updated?
This is just.
No, I mean,
This
it's-
is just the, so explain that, Cindy.
Okay. Instead of putting in the pages for R1, R2, R3, they put in one set of pages, but it would be in all residential areas, as well as, I mean, it's only going in R. It is supposed to be an accessory building. From my understanding, it's accessory building, not a standalone, which of course in all the residential, you can't have a standalone anyway unless you live in it. I mean, they have to be accessory, so it does have to meet the, enough room on your lot, enough space back, all of those things, no utilities except for electricity, so you can't live in it. That, it is an accessory building. They used R1 and R2 and R3 would mimic that, and they are use permitted upon review is my understanding, the way they wanted to do it, so everyone would have to be okay by the neighbors around it. That.
So what you're seeing here would be all through
All the
R1 through
residentials.
R3.
Yeah, R1 through R3. That is correct. And they just put one in here rather than put 12 more pages in.
And that use permitted upon review does provide a measure of protection and review, to be clear.
Does that mean all the neighbors have to agree before you can put it in?
No, they have to.
They come to the planning
They have
commission.
a hearing.
And say, we don't want it
They
here.
can protest it and explain why. and
Why
then-
they
and
don't-
then the
why it
planning
should
commission
not be
can
there.
Act on that.
They supply an application, goes to the planning commission. Planning commission does a hearing, sends notices out to the neighbors. And then the neighbors have a chance to protest.
Which means when we do the hearing for this one, it will take a letter to everyone who lives in town to come to the hearing.
And is the planning commission's hearing?
Yes. Yeah, if the council can.
You have more regulation with the storage containers than you do with, a shed on skids.
Well, that's,
Should be the same, well,
look, that's been my point. I've got a shed on skids and I don't have to put it on a concrete pad. I don't have to secure it to the ground, any of that. And that thing is lighter than a storage container, I guarantee you. Because it's just a few 2x4s and some metal siding on it, and that's it. I mean, there's not much to those.
I don't know, I've got mixed emotions on it both ways. I mean,
Me too.
certain areas, commercial, industrial, I can see it. I'm like a lot of the other people, I don't want to see them plop down in a residential setting in the middle of town someplace. So,
As far as that goes, you could limit them to, I guess, to the 20-footers. Realistically, 20-footer is all that most people are going to be able to fit in their yard at the most in residential areas.
And most people who are gonna stick a vehicle or something in it, that will hold.
I don't think you can really stick it, I mean, you'd have to put doors on the, how you gonna get the doors up? I mean, look, I like mine, but like as for a garage, I'd rather have a garage if I had my choice.
Sure, no,
But,
I'd rather have $1 million, but.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you the cost difference between one of them and a garage.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
I know.
That's the reason that it's economic for some people.
Like I say, what I've got most of mine, what mine has filled most of it, or a lot of it, is like when I junk out a furnace, I keep the blower motor, I keep the parts off of the thing if they're halfway good, and you know what, when it's minus 20 and their motor goes out and I have to shove one in there, they're happy that I got that junk laying around. I'd love to have it not laying around, but I do need it sometimes.
And it's also weather tight, rodent free.
It is, yeah, I've never had a problem with anything in there. As compared to my shed with the concrete floor and the block, I get all kinds of stuff in there. It's not very secure. But I like it better because it has a garage door. I don't know. Like I say, myself, I would limit it to commercial, and I don't see the point of a concrete floor. If you're gonna make it so expensive, as expensive almost as building a shop, then just don't allow them and just tell people you gotta build a garage. I mean,
It's not your choice on what they build.
well, I know, but I'm just saying is by the time you build a concrete pad and you put this on it and you get power to it, you're gonna be 3/4 away towards a cheap metal building.
Not your choice.
thoughts, Keith?
Yeah, I don't see what the big difference would be if you make one look like a she shed or build a she shed. It'd make it look the same. I don't care what it do. Why would it make any difference?
Years ago, they used to have those little metal, like 10 by 10 little metal buildings. When we were kids, we had one of those. We put our bikes and stuff in
Like
it.
Todd said, you could put a pitch roof on it, put siding on it, make it look like a shed. I mean, it's just, there shouldn't be any difference.
It's just a shed that's less likely to fall down than one made out of scrap lumber.
Like I say, it'll survive a tree falling on it, and it doesn't hurt it any. Well, what do you want? I mean, what do you guys want to do?
I'll just force you.
Okay.
Move to approve the intermodal containers.
As lined out here? Okay. That a second?
What was the motion?
He made a motion to approve the intermodal as lined out here with these restrictions that came back from the planning commission.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
What, 4-2?
4-2.
Okay.
So those,
So
that'll,
we'll get something
we'll
written
start
up
with the,
and
start the process.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's what you're here for, is to move it forward.
All right.
Okay,
Next up, the Custer Block releases.
in your packet is a spreadsheet. The Kester Block Advisory Board met last week to talk about whether we should keep rent the same or increase it. The discussion amounted to how much property tax and insurance each unit costs. And you can, I mean, you can see through the columns how much it's costing the city to operate these buildings. Based off of how the county breaks down our taxes, because they do it by unit, and then the insurance also does it by unit as well. So for instance, reflections, we lose money. As of 2022. We do make money on the other ones, quote unquote, however little that is. But overall, we are netting about $9,000, a little less than $10,000, if I'm reading that correct. And that's just insurance and taxes. That's not maintenance or anything like that. So we're definitely not making any money off of these units, because the money that goes into this also pays for the whole block, this Kester Block maintenance fund. That's where the rent goes. Now there are other funding sources that go into that to offset a little bit, but we might be breaking even at best case scenario. The committee recommended a $25 increase per month for all units except for the apartment, which they recommended a $50 increase per month, bringing it to $550. You can see on the very end, you can see the price per square footage in 2022 this year, and the price per square footage after that recommended increase. I mean, it's a minimal change in cents, but it's at least visible. I'll preface the whole, before you guys discuss anything, the whole idea behind the Kester Block, at least how I understand it, is to keep businesses running or viable local businesses. Now, there is an exception in the H&R Block, but they've put money into that building to keep their lease, and in fact, their lease doesn't end until May of next year, because they had a 5-year lease, because they made quite a bit of improvements on their property. With that being the exception, all the other ones are local businesses, including the restaurant. So not to charge an exorbitant amount of rent. With that low rent, there was inserted in 2008 the expectation that the tenants take care of their fixtures, and if they wanted to paint or if they wanted to, all the interior stuff that normally as a tenant the landlord would take care of, but the attempt was to keep rent low, and that started back in 2008. So that's where we're at right now, with the recommendation to increase rent by $25 per month, and $50 for the apartment.
Why was the apartment raised $50 and all the businesses only $25?
They could see it as, I mean, after tenant after tenant after tenant, and the improvements that have been fixed. As the apartment gets fixed, a lot of money has gone into cleaning up that after tenants. So trying to offset that a little bit to go there. It's a 2,200 square foot apartment. Yes, technically a 1-bed, 2-bath, no, 1.5, 1 3/4 bath. So it's a large place. You're probably not going to find a place like that for $550 around town. The negative is it's only got stairs up to the second floor. So,
Do you have data on what market rate is per square foot for Marysville? Is that something that we have access to?
I don't have that
Just
data.
curious.
I'm not sure
It
where.
seems like it would exist.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, do we?
Like I brought up, you can't rent much of a house in Marysville for $700
No.
a month.
No,
much
that feels
less the
like a
commercial
good-
building. I mean,
Reasonably good deal.
Yeah,
Stairs
it's still
keeping
reasonable.
him-
Yeah,
yeah.
stairs notwithstanding.
Right.
We could get. I mean, the apartment's in a perfect spot for younger couple. I mean,
There's no outside maintenance or anything like there would be with a house. or
right.
Some other
And they're
structure.
right downtown where they or we want them.
Correct.
Yeah. So there are benefits to that.
Is everyone current with their rent now? Everyone square? No?
No.
That feels like it could be a factor to me. I mean, either way, I mean, if you want to, I could argue that's a reason not to raise it, because if they can't keep up now, but also, and not naming names, but also if that's, they're a high-touch tenant, then they should be paying accordingly. Because if you're having to follow up with them a lot and they're always behind, then as a business, if we want to look at it as any kind of business enterprise, we should be expecting more out of that, more return for the pain, frankly.
Have we been in and visited with each one of these tenants on anything?
I did have Will go in last month, and he talked to each one of them. Asked him for a list of issues that needed to be addressed, and he got a few things. I think he was still waiting on tenants to respond, but he went in person the day that I asked him to get things taken care of. There's some lighting fixtures that he's planned to work on if he hasn't gotten to them already. Some different things. He fixed the leaks on the front, which came up recently on the front of reflections, and cleaned out the flue of cut above that needs it every once in a while because it's got some bends in it. He has talked with them, yes.
Do we have a council liaison to the advisory board? Like, were you there? Was anybody?
Jason, we were both.
You're both there?
I was there, yeah.
So, I guess, were any of these tenants there, or are any of them aware of this discussion? I mean, since it hasn't been raised in a decade.
Marvin Kramer's on the board, yeah.
Okay, that's why I was like, I feel like there should, they'd want a voice in this. I'd understand that.
That's why I was asking.
That's
if
what
they've
I
been in
wonred.
contact with
Yeah.
these tenants to see if they,
'Cause the
they
rent
needed anything or wanted anything in their lease
And
changed
nobody wants to be
even.
blindsided.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, they're probably aware. And it doesn't say how long each of these have been.
Since
in-
2012, it says.
But I mean, each of these tenants, have these all been in their,
Well, no, Main Dish, well, close,
I was
yeah.
gonna say Main Dish and South Hill.
No, it's South Hill would be the only one that was not, probably. And all the rest have been there since 2012. So they all well aware that their rent has not
what-
changed since 2012.
That's what I'm wondering.
Not a bit. They are all aware of it. Some of them have been there, well, like a Cut Above's been there since 90-something,
Yeah.
so.
My kind of personal opinion on some of this is, I feel like I'm glad it's full. I'm glad everything is occupied and rented. That's great. But also, I always look at it as a little more than, are we just scrambling to keep it occupied, or do we care what's happening there? And I mean that in the sense of, if a business is operating in an inconsistent manner or might be of some general concern, is that, do we care? Again, not naming names, but should we care? Do we care? I mean, they're paying, if they're paying their rent on time, should we care? If they're not paying their rent on time, should we care? I feel like when we are in charge of something like this, then it behooves us to make sure it's operated not only at theoretical capacity, but to the betterment of the city in every way. If that makes sense. So, if a tenant, how many tenants do we have that are behind?
2.
How far behind are we talking?
One John's addressing, does that
Okay.
tell you? The other one's 2 months, including this month.
Do
1
we-
month plus this month.
Do we have some sort of carry
Letter
or interest?
That we send, that we.
No, but do we have like a carry or an interest? Like when they get behind, is there any kind of
I don't
teeth?
think there's I don't think really.
And it's not written into their leases.
Well, we
Other
should,
than
I
eviction.
mean,
in
yeah.
my opinion. We should have some sort of enforcement mechanism. And it doesn't have to be like,
The
you know,
enforcement
we're not letting
mechanism right now
blood.
is that if you have not paid, then we'll send you a letter and in 10 days you need to either pay or get out.
I just feel like there should be some sort of penalty. I think in any other real estate.
You mean financial penalty that needs to be
Yeah, and it
written in
doesn't
it?
have to be massive, but it needs to exist.
That makes
I mean, I
sense.
think in any other real estate, correct me if I'm wrong, where if you have commercial real estate, you're going to understand that you've got to keep, you need to keep your tenants up because you've got costs, you obviously have costs.
Yeah.
So, that's something I'd like to see included. I don't think the amount we're raising it is exorbitant at all, especially since.
20 years, or 10 years.
And I wasn't party to the advisory board's discussion, but I'm also okay with the idea of doing some sort of little actually higher increase staged out over a period of years, kind of like what we did with hangar land lease.
A percentage was batted around a little bit, but
Okay.
that was decided against. In my opinion, that's a fairer way to go about it. I think $25 if you're paying 175 is a fairly, that's
Yeah.
over 10% increase versus if you're paying 375,
Right.
it's,
And you
7
could-
or 8 or whatever.
If you did cents per square foot or something like that, then that would
Well,
also be
when you look at
a level or
cents
more
per
level
square
line.
foot, there's a couple of them that aren't in the ballpark of the other ones.
I understand that.
And where my view on it is I realize that, the thought process is you want to keep those rates lower than what it normally would be in the open market to keep those businesses in there. At the same time, we need to be bringing in enough revenue after we pay our taxes and expenses that we can do repairs on that block. Because I don't want to, at 20 years, just barely
Right.
treading water and then all the buildings are shot.
Right.
And, $8,000-9,000 a year left over doesn't do much in the way of repairs on those buildings when they need furnaces and air conditioners and roofs
Sure.
and brick tucked and windows replaced and all those things.
And I think the council, and recently and reaching back further, has made efforts we want to make sure we keep it in good repair and to be a nice place
do.
to run a business. You want it to be an attractive and efficient
But
and
I guess the
safe
question
place.
is how much of it should come out,
Fall on
should be
them.
self-sufficient, how much should come out of the general fund,
Right,
taken away from other things to repair those
right.
things that need replaced.
In a perfect world, it would almost be self-sustaining.
Yeah,
Almost.
well, and that's the thing, I mean, in 10 years, you're talking not even a 10% increase on most of these. If you
Right.
were just, if it was a fair deal 10 years ago and at least we're keeping up with cost of living increases, it should probably be adjusted more than what we're talking here, but.
Right, and I'd like to think if I were a tenant there, I'd go, okay, well, they have been repairing the cornices and,
Yeah.
and the roof, and like, they're seeing that we are not absentee landlords just patchworking things. Like, we will spend the money it takes to make it nice. And I think, yeah, I think 10% is very, very nominal. I can't believe we haven't changed it almost as long as I've been on
How
council.
long will this next contract be
Crazy.
written for?
3 years unless you would, and that would be a thought, would be increase it so much first year, so much second, so much a third. I mean,
Right.
Because then they
so
can,
it isn't all at
people can
once.
plan for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be even fine with kicking it 1 year and then staging it in to get people a chance to do it, except the fact it's been 10 years. And I mean, anybody who runs a business is gonna be seeing this coming. I think.
Why don't we do a 1-year contract and have more dialogue with them?
I think that'd be fine.
And on that apartment, do we require any type of deposit?
Yes,
What is it, like full month rent or
it's
something?
it's the legal limit, it's a full month's rent, yeah. I forget if, 'cause full month's rent and, yeah, some other things, yeah. If you, by the law, but full month's rent, yeah.
So you want a 1-year contract, you want a financial penalty written into it?
I don't know, is there a boilerplate financial penalty? I don't deal in commercial real estate.
You late fee, $10 a month, I've seen plenty of those.
Okay.
Yeah, $10 if you're late after 10 days. That's pretty standard.
Okay.
Or you do a percentage of the rent.
Yeah, percentage of the rent might make more sense, because again, $10 relative to your rent is a
Yeah.
bigger or lesser deal. I don't know what percentage you're talking, 10% or 5%? I mean, is 10% too much?
I've seen a lot of 5%.
Yeah. I think 5%, I personally.
And the 25 is fine across the board, or are you gonna, vote- you'll get the vote?
Yeah, what are you wanting for the
I mean, or
1-year
did you wanna
contract? Or you want to do an
vary
increase
it
or
for
keep it where it's at
different
for a
sizes?
year, or what do you?
I don't think Parker's wrong. I think you do 1 year and you say, look, but we're gonna need to go up more because we've been derelict in increases where they should have been. But we wanna have a discussion, what works best for you as far as would you prefer it staged in? Or, whatever. I think having conversations would be the way to do that.
Because these expire December 31st, so send the new leases now.
Yeah.
And say that,
Yeah, I
and then
don't
we're
think we
gonna
can
have a
pick this.
conversation.
We either have to
Yeah.
do something or nothing right now.
Okay, that's why I'm asking.
Give them a year to think about it, what they want to do.
Yeah.
I'll start the process a little bit sooner next year.
But usually, well, see, it was 3 years.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
why. It
So
was
let's start
1
with-
year with 2-year renewal, but this won't have the renewals.
Right.
So that's what you're saying. Okay, so I know how to get them. Okay.
Okay, we need a motion for that then,
It'd be nice.
probably.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 5-1. Okay. Let's look at the birthday policy.
Okay, we just exerted this out of the policy handbook that you guys have already seen. Based off of your guys' discussion, actually the first page on 20, we lowered down the number of holidays that we put in there, since you guys had a favorable view of Christmas Eve and wanted to look at a birthday policy. On page 21, highlighted is the proposed birthday policy. What we're asking for is at least, yes, this looks good. in this discussion. I will, if you are really favorable about Christmas Eve, I will put the ask in for this year. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask for that.
I think you need to add if your birthday falls on, because Mondays is holidays, right?
Doesn't it say that in there somewhere if your birthday falls on the
Should, like,
weekend?
Fall the
Friday
day
or-
after,
Yeah, it is.
after the
Yeah,
Monday
it does
holiday.
say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yep.
And I
So
see
we know which direction to go.
I saw it in there.
on this, no overtime will be paid for birthday holidays. I'm fine with that. So it's possible somebody would have a 50 hours of straight time in a week?
Yes, that is possible.
And that's completely kosher and legal? We don't have to worry about,
That's the way we used to do all the holidays
Okay.
in the police department. It
That's-
really affects them so that they don't schedule them. Every other one, you might end up working on a holiday. Your birthday, you should not be scheduled to. That's what it's
I'm
about.
just thinking snowfall.
Yeah.
if
Right,
ever
and it
comes
may
up.
happen,
Hypothetically, yeah.
I mean, that they should go to another day then, or whatever, but yeah.
And there's a little bit of common sense and like, you know,
Yes.
Yeah.
communication can solve
Right,
these things.
exactly.
Right. So if that, I mean, does that look okay to you? We would put that all into the policy handbook, and the plan was to bring it all back at the second meeting of this month, for you guys' complete approval. Yeah. Approve the whole thing as one? Everything look good in there?
Looks good.
I'll just
You want a
rephrase.
motion on it or not?
What?
You want a motion on it?
Well, the only thing I would need a motion on is if you are gonna approve us to have Christmas Eve this year.
Yeah, that's coming up.
It would be the Friday before the weekend.
Yeah.
So we turn it into a 4-day weekend, if you so please.
You gonna make that motion or not?
Looking at the weather, they ain't gonna be off anyway, so.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it's supposed to snow.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
Thank you, Linda. Yeah.
great.
No,
That's fine.
we weren't gonna get it, so like I said, I gotta ask. All right, next.
Next, we have the personal protective equipment policy.
Cindy, you wanna go over this one?
That's another add to the employee handbook. KMIT asked us to be a little more descriptive of our, and personal protective equipment is like, earplugs and gloves and those kinds of things. And we updated the words is what we did, and it went through our safety committee, and it went through KMIT, who does our work comp, and they just want us to include this in that handbook as well. And so we wanted your okay to add that to the handbook, because it wasn't in there when you looked at it the first time. And we want to put it in there before you okay it, the next time. But this was pretty well written by, our work comp people, what they had suggested.
It was well written.
Yeah.
And then each department will have, more defined in your
In
department.
what they want.
Right, because if
Right.
you happen to be the guy in the sewer department, there are more things that you would have to do with safety things and that kind of stuff. And so they would be more defined in those
And they're
as
gonna
well.
bring
But this
that-
will be in the overall.
Okay, and they're gonna bring that to us and the departments?
Those are always just done in their safety manuals
Okay.
within their departments.
All right.
But this is in the overall handbook.
Okay.
If it's okay to add that.
This just gave you a good chance to read it beforehand. If you're okay with this, we just add it to the stack of paper. Didn't want to get it lost in our handbook while you guys were considering it for next time. Any questions about that? Okay.
Add them both.
Okay, next up, we have the consent agenda.
We should approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, any discussion about any items on there? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Okay, next up, we have appropriations ordinance number 3786.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3786 in the amount of $470,000 $137.93.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I thought, like the bulletproof vests and pants and stuff for the officers, I thought that always came out of a different.
We have taken some out of special law, we have taken some out of, a lot of times we get a JAG grant for them. I think this was for one that was worn out, is my understanding, I think, if I remember right. It isn't that we replaced 5 of them or whatever, but a lot of times it does come out of a JAG grant or a.
Okay.
So
this time it comes out of here.
Yeah, yep, that's correct, you are correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Fry,
Yes.
Keating, Snelling, Bikeman,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
Crum.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Next up, Austin with the staff reports.
All right, first thing on my list is the gateway sign. This is a sign that was approved a couple years ago. And we purchased it through Apple One Media. And the idea was, hopefully, since we already had a sign at the entrance, to replace that wooden sign. That was the initial idea that the council talked about. But in discussions with KDOT, if we wanted to replace the existing sign, they would require us to move a sign 52 feet off the white line, west line, no, east line, white line, if it's on KDOT right away, 52 feet away from that, which would be visible from the road. They also didn't like the height of it because the sign itself is 20 feet tall plus legs. They just wanted it max 20 feet tall. So that was another challenge. Then they wanted us to ask.
Why are they concerned about the height?
That's just their max. That's just their max. And they treat gateway signs differently than any other sign. And in fact, they didn't like the low-grade bolts as breakaway material for this sign, but they didn't mind it for the wayfinding signs.
And people wonder why government projects cost it.
Multiple departments working on signs. They just don't like gateways. So in my discussion with KDOT, they said we could either abide by all their rules, and one of the rules was also to basically get a nasty letter from the neighbors up north saying they don't want the sign on their property because they want us to evaluate that too. Either we abide by all KDOT regulations, or we could move it over to this other corner where the black squirrel sign is, and it's on our property.
A question, on the white line, there's 2 white lines.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you say eastern white line, the fog line or that like extra eastern line that I'm not sure what the purpose, I don't know why there's double white lines there, it's not a turn lane.
Nope, there is not.
So why are there 2 white lines? And one of them's probably 8 or 10 foot farther over.
Yeah.
Just curious, I mean, because KDOT's not maintaining their highway there.
Right. Let me
Dictating
make
to us
sure.
You know, you get up past the Jackson Street, it's all parking on both sides.
Right.
Right. Let me take a look at that just to make
Just
sure
didn't
it's
know
not.
if they had a diagram that they sent, or if they, when they said eastern, did they mean on the east
That
side of the travel lane?
that middle line does not exist.
I mean, it doesn't exist.
Hold on. I'm looking at it. Oh, there it is.
I promise you it exists.
It's there.
It's the well, when I went out on the bridge, it wasn't there.
Oh,
But
yeah, no.
they're talking about the very east line.
So they, yeah.
The
okay.
very east line.
So we have 52,
Edge of the road.
Edge of the road.
how much right of way do we have east of that east white line?
KDOT has a ton of right of way there.
So it goes over to like those trees, basically.
Yes, a ton of right of way.
Yeah.
Because there's no railroad right of way.
Hundreds of feet.
So the railroad, okay, so wrinkle, the railroad right of way where this sign is, who does that belong to?
Along the railroad yet, or is it KDOT?
No, railroad doesn't own it
It's
anymore.
got a UP sign on it.
It does.
Everything up here, is, it's either KDOT on the east side until it hits, the houses, which that was abandoned to the properties. So that road, that back road back there, that,
Not an actual
it's not
road?
an actual road. The property owners kindly let us utilize it to get to and from the levee, or to and from the properties back there. We are driving over other people's properties. So it's a lot of KDOT property, on this side. And then when you get past Jackson, limited KDOT property on the west side.
So basically, the sign that's there is grandfathered in,
Yes.
and changing it in any way, shape, or form
New
revokes
rules.
that.
New rules. Yes.
So what's the line? I mean, I don't know. You get awful darn in the weeds, but it's ridiculous, the whole stupid thing.
Right.
Is there anything to say we have to remove that sign if we do put a sign on the other side, or can we have two signs?
That's a little foggy too, because they had a discussion, about, because first thing that the area engineers said was if we put a sign there, the black squirrel sign has to go. I don't know why it's kind
Can't
of.
have two signs on the same side.
No, within so many feet. Well, so he gave me the example, if we went out 10 miles and put a gateway up, and requested to put a gateway up 10 miles out, which we can. I mean, they have an application process for that. They would have us remove that sign because we only get one gateway sign.
Oh.
And they were, in their travel around, they were thinking that black squirrel sign was also a gateway sign.
What's the definition of a gateway sign? Anything that says welcome?
Welcome
So
to
you can't have two
Marysville.
welcome signs?
Right, right.
Frickin'
So, again, got foggy because then he retracted that, and then he sent me an email saying, look at this, based on the black squirrel sign, and it didn't exactly elaborate whether he was right or wrong. So, there are questions about that.
You know, when the railroad went through there, the black squirrel sign used to sit on the north side of the south drive into the city park.
Okay. So that was gonna be a discussion point, because we have places for that black squirrel sign to go, especially since it does have camper parking, where it says free camper, parking. It would go great, right next to the city park going, hey, Black Squirrel City, City of Marysville, free camping, this way.
There's two of those signs, right? There's the one by the water tower and this one?
Yes.
Those are the only two?
Those are the only two.
Or maybe by the bathrooms.
The rub, would be that, dog park, sign. We'd have to figure out where that one would go. And I've talked with Maureen about putting, she's the one that's been working on the signage, been spearheading the signage, and she's also been spearheading the dog park. And she liked this position. She didn't mind it. I won't say she was overly excited that we're not having it right where the other welcome sign is. But she said she didn't see a problem with it going there. And knew that we had to figure out another spot for the dog park
So
sign.
it's okay to go on this side, it just is not okay to go on the other side.
That's our property.
Because that's our property.
That's our property, yes.
Okay.
That's the catch.
That is the catch. So I do have more clarification from KDOT, whether we can have two signs going at the same time. That one's obviously grandfathered in, otherwise they would have, it would be way out there. It's a challenge.
A losing battle.
Yeah.
I've been there, done that with KDOT when we had the motel and we had signs all over and they were there for years and we had to end up taking them down.
Right. And this has been not necessarily a fight, but this discussion has been going on for the last year and a half, 2 years with trying to figure out KDOT and their regulations and all that. And I'm working with, and he's been great with KDOT, this is his first gateway sign that he's had to deal with. been going back and forth, working well with us, doing what he can to help us. I can't fault him for that. But he's working within the rules that he's given, and what KDOT's providing, so.
What about the rest of the Wayfair signs that we have to go up? Are we getting anywhere on that?
Yes, so in that same meeting, the CES, who's been kind enough to put the plans together and get all that, KDOT asked them to update positioning of the signs, because they had some concerns on where some of them were, and we knocked it out to where KDOT liked, or at least agreed to where the signs were gonna be. There were some ones that needed to be moved around a little bit, and they'd still have some questions about the design of the signs that need to be answered for them to be happy. But we've gotten leaps and bounds in the last couple months just by one, help from the community, getting these pushed through, and then figuring out who to talk to and.
Why doesn't KDOT just come up here and visit with us in council meeting then? Let's just get it.
Good luck with that.
We don't want to.
Yeah,
Right.
because then everybody'd want him to come around and they could yell at him.
Because originally when we bought these, the plan was we were gonna buy some that year and then some
I know,
next.
that
I
was
mean,
supposed
we
to-
should be like in our second go-round of
Yeah,
signs by now.
exactly.
Right.
We don't
haven't
even the
got
first one.
set up
Right.
yet.
So do these regulations only, okay, so I have not read these regulations. Do they only apply to city-sponsored and organized signs? If a
Signs-
private person puts up a sign, or if an outside entity not associated with the city, do they still have to hew to KDOT by the exact same regulations, or is that like a completely
in their
separate
right of way.
set?
It's in that right
It's
of
if
way,
it's in their right of way, they have something for every type of sign. Wayfinding
Yeah.
signs is a category.
It-
Gateway
it- yeah.
signs is a category. I applied for wayfinding signs, and I tried to apply for a gateway sign in the same application. They said, no, you go a different way. It's computerized for the wayfinding. I filled out an application, and had to type up, paragraphs, to describe what the gateway sign was gonna be, and that went a completely separate process. And they required a lot more, they required stamped engineering plans for the gateway sign.
So the Wayfair signs, we're gonna get this first set done,
Yeah,
so then we may go out and get some more.
right.
They probably won't get approved like the first set
These
did
are
in the
all,
same
these
deal.
are all I think these are all the KDOT right-of-way ones in the first round. I may be mistaken on that, but that's majority of them,
I think it is the majority of them.
yeah. And in fact,
Ours that we were gonna do for the second round,
Right.
a little bit more descriptive where things were.
Right, like in the,
Main Street and
throughout the
stuff like
community
that.
and all that stuff. Well, actually, Main Street's taken care of in this first round because
Wayfair off the top.
it's got, we got the little street signs
Right.
that'll go up, down, that's all included in this first round. Map signs, it's just getting all that taken care of, and the challenge, I mean, it's just been a challenge, one with KDOT and, small challenges, relatively small challenges with the sign provider, that we've been working through, so.
Well, I think it's important that we find a spot for this sign, because as I remember right, that the thinking was that you would roll into town, you would see the big sign, it's the same style, color as the other ones, and so you would just kind of connect the dots and go, okay, if I see a sign that's blue and it's this style, it's a sign directing me to city services and things to
Wasn't
see.
this gateway sign supposed to be lighted?
No,
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 I
because
think they talked about it, and it was a ways away from electricity.
we can, it's a long ways away.
But if it goes to a different spot, is it a little bit easier
Yes.
to light?
Yes.
Wasn't that the reason, because it wasn't our property, lightening it?
No,
lighting it
they
with,
would do lighting, they would be okay with lighting. We would just have to tell them we need lighting on KDOT property.
Okay.
Over here, I mean, you can see, well,
That power pole's
the
there.
power pole's right there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right there.
You could light it.
So
there,
we
probably.
could light it, yes.
Because I know that was discussed when we talked about putting them up. I know lighting.
That's
was
immensely
discussed.
easier to light right there than what it is over here.
I don't like moving it, but I also don't like the
No,
fact that it's
but-
been sitting on the ground for a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's not up
Exactly.
yet.
Right.
That's frustrating.
Very.
And if we do put it there, can we, it's our property in the park, right?
Yes.
So we can put that sign there, or they gotta huff and puff about it, the Black Squirrel sign?
We can, I think we can
Go
have.
back to them for permission again.
I honestly think, because it just got confusing, but I honestly think, since they jumped on, you can move it there and not even talk to us, that was their statement. We could do pretty much anything. I think we could put that sign there, we could put the Black Squirrel or the dog park or however we want. I mean, obviously we want to plan it out so it looks nice. But we could do with our property, because off of KDOT right away, what we will. So,
Well, I mean, I don't love that sign that's on the east side. I always thought it was a little bit of an oddity in that it's so different than everything else, but by the same token, if KDOT doesn't like it having there, I say we leave it there.
It looks nice. I mean, it looks nice, it's just.
No, it's a nice looking
small.
sign.
It
It's
is.
just a
But
little,
it looks
it's a little
nice.
hard to read unless you really, well, hopefully people do slow down, I guess.
right,
But I say we leave it there until they force us to move it.
Absolutely.
But I also say we put up the gateway sign and light it and make it look nice. That's my attitude, though.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I would recommend, once that comes to end of life, that wooden sign. I mean, it's gotta be, I mean, it looks like it should be, put somewhere else indoors, for others to
Well,
see.
let's make a replica and switch it in the middle of the night.
Well, I'm
saying I want it there
afraid that if
forever.
it got knocked down, or it does come to end of life, that you're gonna play hell getting it put back up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
don't,
you
and
won't
I
get it
think,
put back up.
I think Colin's right, I don't think you'll get it from them.
Right.
I
No,
think they'll be like, well, hey, it's down, now it's time to move it.
yep,
This is squared away. Remind them that they are responsible for that stretch of pavement in front of this, and they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
right.
They
Because it's
have a
terrible.
lot of engineering hours to spend on nickel and diming us on signs, and no time to fix the road. So, you know,
Yeah.
just once this is behind us, then stoke that.
Ask that sign group that worked with them, try and get a little bit of their input too. On this.
Okay.
I know you talked to Maureen, but.
Right, no, and that's why I gave her the ask before I even put it in the agenda, and it's been basically Maureen and Michelle, Whitesell, working on this as a part of the convention and tourism group. I will run it by them and get some, make sure they're okay with it. Yeah. Is this okay?
We need a motion or just
I don't know where else
consensus
you're
of
gonna
council.
put it.
Right,
Yeah, there's not really another option.
Only other place to put it is up by the water tower.
right. Well, and that's a challenge unto itself too. I mean, on the side of a hill,
Blasting all that rock.
blasting all the rock. We already have trouble maintaining that hill too, so. Yeah, I'd take a motion, to add, and you can put a contingent on convention and tourism's, being okay with it. I don't see there's gonna be any issue. They're gonna be really excited once we get it up.
Move to approve gateway sign on the west side of 10th.
Second.
Then moving the sign that's there.
No.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
the Black Squirrel
the
sign.
Black
whatever.
Squirrel
Black Squirrel
sign.
sign.
Yeah.
Yes, moving it to the entrance of the city park.
City Park. Okay. What it sounds like. it used
Leaving
to
the
be.
other sign
It
there.
used to be there.
Leaving the one on the east side.
Yes,
Leaving it there.
Until they tell you to take
until they
it
tell
down.
us. to
Tell
remove
us-
it.
take it down.
They'll report.
Got a second? Okay. Any further discussion? Yes.
If we do lighting on it,
Mm-hmm.
let's do some real considerations of doing it right. I don't, some of them look good if you have the ability to put a little color in them,
Okay,
so it's just something to look at.
okay. Consider different lighting options. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0. All right.
Next thing on my list is a vacation buyback policy. You guys, council asked me to come up with a policy to present, and this is, tried to pull from different cities and then meld it into our own policy handbook, which is what you see on page 51. This would insert right into our handbook. It comes with a minimum usage. Basically, with the vacation buyback, you want to make sure your employees are also taking vacation, because you don't just want them taking advantage, and vacation's there to be taken. So there's a minimum usage lined out by continuous employment, starting 1 year to 5 years, 48 hours minimum usage in the year. 5 to 10 is 72, and over 10 years is 96, and that's just for the regular employees. Police officers have a little bit adjusted, 54, 81, and 108 hours. The buyback, I took where an employee has to maintain a minimum of 80 hours, so they have it available for use. They can't just buy their stuff all the way down. They have to have it available for use. And then the max they can buy back is 1 week. Actually, I put it at 43 hours just to keep it the same between normal employees and police officers, because the police officers would be getting that 43 just to get that half of their 86 for the 2 weeks. So it just seems simple to go max of 43. That is unless the employee is qualified within 3 years of retirement. I saw this policy, that portion in City of Salinas, and I get where they're coming from. They want to, if at all possible, but they have to still maintain that 80. If at all possible, buy their vacation in year 1. If they're going to retire in year 3, that liability is paid at year 1 salary versus year 3 salary, which could be quite a bit more, depending on the raises. So they're reducing liability right there. And then payments, this would be once a year. This idea would be basically make sure employees are taking their vacation, make sure they have 80 hours in their bank, and then they could buy back a minimum of 1 day or a maximum of 43 or otherwise, as lined up previously. And that pay request would come at the end of the year by December 15th and would be paid out the same as our sick leave policy, where so our sick leave, if you don't use any sick leave, you get 2 days of pay at your current rate as a bonus for not taking your sick leave, and there's a prorated if you take 1 day in the year. So it's paid at the same way we paid that out. And just to make sure it's clear, payment rate will match employees' ending hourly rate of the year requested. That way, when you get the cost of living at the beginning of January, it's not adjusted to that. You're still getting paid 2022 rates and not 2023. And it lines out that payment of the vacation is taxable, but it doesn't count towards your capers unless you are an employee that has been in capers since before July 1 of 1993. We do have one employee. So if this would apply, if you guys would approve this, the one employee would be able to increase their capers considerably with this buyback. And that's just set by the state, capers, regulations. Vacation buyback is lined out in pre-1993 employees as a valid payment. I went through this with department heads, and it was not very favorable. I mean, even among those that we think would benefit from this. They felt that we would just be in the same spot because we were telling them they had to use a minimum amount of vacation anyways, and they're saying, well, they can't, even no matter how many times I tell them they need to take vacation. And that's my main goal is to make sure they're taking their vacation and knowing that they are still hard workers when they're taking a rest. I'd rather have not a burned out employee working in a backhoe or otherwise salting the streets when it's icy out than somebody who feels like they have to be there all the time. So they didn't like this. They didn't necessarily like this policy because they just felt like they'd be there the same. We're already making them take vacation with the use it or lose it, and it would just be a minor. You get a week at the end of the year sort of thing. So they didn't exactly like it, but we wrote it just in case you guys still wanted to do it, the best we felt was possible.
Well, employees aren't in favor of it, we'll just move on it and vote it down.
Okay.
I move we vacation policy, buyback policy.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Okay. The next thing I have is an RFP, a proposed RFP for 12th Road and Keystone. This was discussed previous meetings. Street Committee discussed it. That's where, well, the map got changed after that, but let me just included as an engineering RFP for proposed projects on 12th Road and Keystone Road. The RFP includes the scope of the proposed projects, requests for proposal contents, and a general timeline of when we would like to go out to bid for construction of the projects. Also included is a map of the proposed projects and a grading rubric for when we go to select from eligible firms. And that, I just happened to go to a conference right as I was writing this that went over RFPs. And I found that we should probably be doing these more like this, which is why you don't, I mean, you see we usually have the grading rubric when KDOT has us do or we get KDOT projects, which we will be doing on the highway, so you'll see this again. But this is a standard practice where we go out for a quality service versus a price-specific service. For example, going out for a computer, we look at the price because we know where we're getting price-wise. Quality is basically the service where it's a human good. You're paying for the person's experience, their education, and the knowledge they've gained over their years of service, and trying to get quality people versus getting undercut by competitors. So you'll see that again, and I included it in here like I'll include it in the RFP. There is a portion in there for costs, and it uses a rating It's on the bottom of it. Um, Out of 100, you can rate that up to a 10. So there is some consideration for costs in this one. That's why it's an RFP. If it was RFQ, request for qualifications, we probably wouldn't include a price. It would necessarily, or at least we wouldn't be ranking on price. Go back to my sheet. After a conversation with one of the engineering firms about the proposed projects and our concerns about the road base, they recommended we work with a geotechnical company to take samples of the current road base to provide to the successful engineer that the city would select. This could possibly save us money in the end, as they could engineer a base based off what exists there. And he didn't necessarily give me an example. Well, kind of did. So if we go in blind and don't do any geotechnical, yes, they could mix in the fly ash or the concrete, the cement mixture. We could be overdoing it, so we paid too much money for it. We could be underdoing it, and the base fails if it actually needed that fly ash infusion, and then we're back to square one with a failed road. So this, with our concerns about the base, it probably would be a good idea to go out for geotechnical. The main name that we've used for the services is Terracon. They've done our wetlands. They actually did some geotechnical on 11th Road for CES when they were either designing or whatever project that we were asking them for. They've done it all over Marysville, have data from all over Marysville, so that's probably who we would go with. I have a as the projects are lined out right now in the map, the cost would be about approximately, this is not a quote, it's an email, approximately for just the coring of these projects is $8,500. If we were not to provide traffic control, which we've provided traffic control in the past, it would be $2,000 in addition. And then to top that off, since we are considering the cement treated base, they would test how much with those core samples. And that's something they do with the design anyways. If we were going to do the cement treated base, $3,000 for the overall project, coring, and that's 7 cores along Keystone, 5 borings along Keystone from 11th Road to 11th Terrace, and 7 borings or samples along 12th Road from the highway to the second entrance, the Keystone Edition.
So question for you, where are they gonna bore? They gonna bore the center of the road? You're gonna laugh at this when I explain
No,
it.
that's fine.
He'd bore it where everybody drives.
Because the center of the road has never been the problem on 11th Road or Keystone.
Right.
It's the edges.
Okay.
So if you're gonna have them come in and they're gonna bore the center of the road, the center of that road is gonna be hard. Because that has always been a road.
Right.
The problem is the shoulders are soft because of the big traffic, the combines and everything else runs over there and smashes it down.
Okay. And we could dictate that. They went
That's what I mean, there's a difference where they're gonna bore.
Yeah.
Yep, 'cause I'm that guy. Are we gonna give permission for them to bore on a road that's not ours?
That'd probably dictate, yes. I would say yes, if we're gonna do that.
It'd be a smart idea.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that we need to do is be responsible for creating, soft spots
Right.
in their road.
Yeah.
And I want that in writing before they start.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin. I would prefer to have black and white of, we
That-
have permission type deal.
That makes sense.
I don't think, and I don't know who's on that township board, but just permission from them,
Okay,
so they know what's going on and they don't get a wild call that, because I don't know what Terracom's gonna use for the machine either.
right.
I mean, I've seen them use all different machines.
Yeah, I've seen them go from a 2-inch hole to a 8-inch hole, so
Okay.
How deep do they go?
It depends on what you're doing.
what they're gonna hit.
He
At the-
said,
What'd they do, 8 feet deep or 10 feet deep up as far as?
all to the depth of 10 feet.
10 feet? Okay.
Long ways,
Pretty deep.
in the middle of the road.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
you know, the first
I'm
2 or
gonna take a
3
guess.
feet, that's gonna be pretty solid.
4 inches is gonna be a solid guess for a road. Because what are the, and they're actually gonna pull core samples.
Yeah.
So they're gonna pull it out and have to fill it back in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chance of a soft spot developing is probably gonna be fair.
It will, depending on where it's drilled.
Yeah,
Well,
and
they
that's
could
why I
drill
want the
through a
township to know what's
pothole
going
that's
on.
already there and.
Exactly.
Yeah, and but that's the
Just-
reason I
I'm
want them
just
to know what's
saying.
going on.
Yeah, well, I know some of that coal mix on the south side of that road's probably 18 inches or better thick that we
Oh,
kept filling in.
there's spots
because it
that
kept
are very
sagging away.
thick, yeah.
But that's also whether you're 10 feet
Huh?
down,
Yeah.
get more data points.
Right.
So,
And I don't want to stir the pot on anything, but a question came up. Do we want to create another line? You brought up the fact that we don't own a lot of that road.
exactly.
Do
I-
we want to create do we want to?
I'm looking at it, you either do main project down to Kiowa, or you have another little project. I don't think that council's ever had it's not been a contentious issue that we realize we're gonna be paving down to Kiowa. It's after that, it gets
After
into
that, it
the
gets contentious.
township and mostly, and not the city's road,
I would do the first one down to Kiowa.
to Kiowa.
So first phase all the way down to Kiowa?
If you're gonna bite the bullet that far, why not just
Yeah.
finish it and be done?
Okay.
They get you
It'd
past
be-
Hometown Drive and
It would
all
be
that.
similar to the stretch
Both
we're
entrances.
doing now from,
From 11th Road?
on 11th Road South.
Right. Well, the catch is we're looking at widening 12th Road. We're looking at the option of widening out that turn lane in
Right.
it. And that's a variable. We don't know what the cost is gonna be
And
versus.
that's fair, but
I'd almost, if you don't mind, I mean, we could do that, and I'm fine with doing that. I mean, yes, we wanna get.
leave it this way, but do it that way also.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I would say, change this current map to have project A be down to Kiowa. So main project A down to Kiowa, project
okay.
B down to, the entrance, and then project C.
That's fine.
And then, we can actually, just change that map to do that, and then we can, after that, we discuss with that engineer, hey, do you think it's gonna cost too much just to combine those two? I think rather than and I was trying to confuse myself, until I talked to the engineer, and they go, no, just simple, once you show that you're looking at phases, they'll get it. So we could combine all these projects at once, and I've tried to line that out. Hey, project A is going to be, if we do it, is going to be bid at the same time as main project. And that's what we're gonna look at. And then we can go, when we bid it and get those prices back, okay, we just wanna do my main project. That's the cost we wanna do right now. So, that, if we were to do anything, I would just recommend adding another project line in there, and then we can go from there. If that's okay with you guys.
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes.
I know that this is for concrete infusion,
Uh-huh.
but if we're blading it out, packing rock back in it, and putting concrete on it, do we really need the concrete infusion?
We're asking the question.
That's what the engineer will tell you.
That's what the engineer will tell us.
That's
Well,
what part of this
I just said, we are concerned about our base, and we have questions about concrete infusion.
Okay, because, you know, I know under asphalt, probably yes, you would need it, but under
Right.
concrete, is it necessary?
Maybe.
I don't know.
We want
That's why
to,
we're asking.
we want to ask the question. That was the whole idea, is just the question out, and get the question out there. If it's necessary, it's necessary. I've seen fly ash being used, before, and the only reason it was put down is they wanted the base to set up real fast. Actually, 2 times. It was required by the FAA out here, I think.
Airport.
And then one at a previous job where they wanted the road opened up faster because it was the only way in and the only way out, and it was up a hill. So they put the fly ash down so it's set, and they put asphalt over the top of it. Other than that, limited uses. So, and this, we're just asking the question. If they say after the geotech comes back, they go, no, base, except for some minor improvements, you don't need it, then you don't need it. I mean, that's why we're paying somebody to do this. Or at least trying to anyways. So it's just a question as of right now. We would get it back if I will update this map to mirror what I just talked about, and everything, nothing else will change. I will talk with Terracon to get that set up, make sure they understand that the edges are the soft parts, and those are what we're concerned about. And then we'll go from there. Are you okay with what I just said about the RFPs?
Yes.
Yes, I got one more
Yes.
point, and I brought this up last time. But as I look at this and going all the way down 12th to that second drive, just my line of thinking is if you were gonna spend that money, you could take that and go west and be halfway towards meeting up with Keystone. And you're getting a nice road to all that land on the north that you would like to see developed. You're getting close to that other land on the north side of Keystone that you would like to eventually see developed. And you could bring Ashbury Lane to dump up into that like the plans show.
Right.
I just haven't ever seen why you go all the way down 12th and basically have another road on the other side of a lot from the other road you already have there. If you think you're gonna do the U, I think you work towards the.
I get the logic. I think the people who live there, by and large, it's because it would be a circuitous trip out. It would increase traffic all the way up Ashbury. I mean, now it's a dead end. I know it was never intended to be a dead end. But I think that is the logic of why people who live there would not appreciate that.
Well, then why not just go to the first drive?
Because then the people who live on that stretch, it's a tight turn. It's not a nice apron.
I mean, I'm talking that first turn on 12th south there.
I know what you're saying, but it's two narrow right turns. People park along those streets who live there. I'm saying this.
You mean
is a
it's going to be like the rest of?
Ward
You mean like it's going to be like the rest of town where you drive up
I
5
think
blocks through everybody's?
Yeah, I
to
understand
get there?
what you're saying,
I'm
but
just saying.
that corner does have, I mean, I've almost flipped a wheel off that corner there. I mean, yes, that could be improved. But I'm saying, why not do it? Well, that's the devil's advocate position, is that this gives you feeders, 2 feeders to spread traffic off of the new stretch, whereas that would put everybody through a curve and through a neighborhood. I understand.
But it gets you nothing towards going to the west on Keystone where you'd
Correct.
like to see development. So
Right,
you're
but
still
that
going
going
to
west,
have to do that.
that's not ours either.
No, neither of it. I mean,
There's
both
people-
of it's just half
there's-
cities,
I
half
know.
township.
I'm not a big fan of free riders, and that would be helping
Although-
free riders.
Although Keystone, are all 3 of these out of city
Keystoners,
limits? Or
Yes, they're outside city
Are all
limits.
3 of those boom, boom, boom outside city limits?
None of this
So
is
it's
in.
the same as
None of it.
12, it's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
side's the cities and one
Right,
side's
well,
township.
I mean, but you're basically helping some free riders incrementally and to the detriment of people who are in city limits that aren't
Yeah.
free riders. So, I'm
Well,
saying, you asked what the argument is,
unfortunately,
there it is.
And I don't like the idea of paving a township road, but I don't see any other option besides doing that. I mean, it's
But like
gonna
if we-
have to, if you're gonna bring a road down there, it's gonna have to
If we're gonna
happen.
pave it, do we just bring it into city limits?
I don't think you can, unless, if they have enough
You
acreage.
can take the
accept
road,
the
but you
road.
have no
I-
income to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we're paving it, aren't we supporting it anyway?
No, so you would take the road in, you wouldn't get any of the, side properties, because that farm over to the east is, you can't just force that in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, the
I don't know about some
property
of
over
the
to the
smaller.
west. The smaller ones,
There's an acreage break, right?
10. I
10.
think there's
25.
25?
Is it that much?
I think it's
It was
25.
even that much, but
The three little houses and the two on this, these two and those three you probably could force because they don't own enough, but I don't think Negley and all the rest of that you can't
No,
force it.
and, yeah. And I think most of the people who have some of those bigger parcels are well aware of that.
Absolutely, they are.
Probably why they park with
Oh,
20
yeah.
acres.
yeah,
I wouldn't either.
yeah, no.
So,
No.
that's understandable.
Right.
Okay.
Between a hard spot and a rock.
Yep.
You gotta get the permission to core drill the road first.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they think they might get rid of that road, they might just
They probably,
come out there.
I would guess they
and
won't have
hold
a
the
problem with
hold
it. As
the
long as we're not
traffic
asking
lanes
them
up.
for any money or anything, I don't know when they're having issues, so,
Yeah, not yet.
well, yeah.
So-
Okay.
Okay, so that's
fine with-
that's fine. I'll make that line in there. Break another project out. That way we just know there's a phase in there. Okay. Any other questions on the RFP? If not, I would love a motion to approve up to, because I will do the traffic control, unless you guys don't want us to, up to $11,500 for geotechnical. If you don't want us to do traffic control, it's another $2,000. But I think we can probably handle the traffic control in January.
Okay.
11.5 includes us doing traffic control.
11.5 includes us doing traffic control.
I'll make a motion up to 11,500 for geotechnical services on, what are we gonna call that, 12th Road,
And Keystone. And Keystone Road.
12th Road, Keystone Road,
That's it.
is that covered, or do you
Yep.
want me to
Yep.
list projects?
No, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0.
All right. Okay. Next thing on my list is cost of living raises. From October to October, and I have to use that because they were late getting October's out till the end of November. I haven't seen if they've gotten December's out. I don't think it's as harsh, but still, October to October was a 7.4% CPI increase. And just to give you a frame of reference, the CPI increase last year was 7.3. Last year we did 5% increase in regards to cost of living, even with that 7.3. So I provided a spreadsheet showing you anywhere from, includes 7.4%, 7%, 6.6. That was on there last year. I forget why I did that, but I just included that. 5% I added in there, and then I went 2, 2.5, 3%, 3.5%, 4%, just to give you an idea of what's going on. And then I gave you the high, low, and average in the bottom left-hand corner to show you what everybody would be getting in relation to each one of those hourly wage increases. Whatever you guys, when you guys approve cost of living increases, I will come back with adjustments to the wage scale, as we should be normally adjusting the wage scale. I just didn't include it this time because I didn't know exactly what the direction the council would want to go. So seeing that, I will let you guys discuss the possibilities of cost of living increases.
What's our insurance doing? That's the first thing we did
Did
find
nothing.
out.
No,
Nothing?
no, we know. It starts October
October.
1, and it was almost a wash.
Good.
Well, that's good, but
Yeah.
we need to know this.
Absolutely
this
you
here
do. It's
before we
information
start.
you need.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, that was,
That's why it wasn't brought to council, because it was like a wash.
Like I said, we never heard it, so we
Right.
don't know that.
Absolutely.
because you hate to give an employee a 2% raise and they end up getting a 6% increase on their
Health insurance.
health insurance.
Yes.
It's a wash. I
It
mean,
was
actually-
close. I mean, it wasn't perfectly, but it was close.
Right.
Yeah, it's,
It wasn't a big number.
It's a
Like
best case scenario. That's
Right.
what it was. We've been getting pretty
Yeah,
lucky.
It was a couple percent, but nothing. Well, next year, get ready.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, we say that, we say
don't
that
know
each
that.
year.
We
We
do.
say
We
that
never
each
know.
year.
We
Yeah.
never know.
but we
Depends
Yeah,
on-
I mean, the other day I saw where they said that they thought that maybe this next rate increase would be less than the last ones because it's starting to finally, inflation's starting to get under control.
Things
They
are
said
settling
mortgage interest rates going up and some mortgage rates, or mortgage payments going up was the biggest increase, but I mean, gas and a lot of those things are finally
Starting to
starting to come
drop.
down and
Right.
even out. So I don't, next year, hopefully, we won't be nearly as much inflation as the last couple, I would hope. I haven't really heard a lot about what other places are giving out as far as raises.
The county gave a 10% increase
Plus premium pay.
plus premium pay.
okay, no, wait a minute, let's read
Well,
here. We haven't had one for like years, so don't get
Okay.
excited over there.
Okay.
Well, we've
Say
gotten-
10%, I mean.
We've
is
gotten
it-
$100 a month
Okay.
is what we've gotten. That's what our raises have been for like the other
Right.
10 years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they're 10%. I was trying to listen to the county, when.
10% with consideration of raising the insurance.
Right. Yeah.
They did not raise the insurance, I will say that.
Oh, really?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Brace for it.
A lot of small groups went up. So the large groups that didn't quite hit as bad, that's all I've heard.
Anybody got any thoughts?
I'll just throw it out. I guess I'll get the ball rolling. I was thinking 5.
That's where I was
I mean,
going.
I don't know if you need to do 7.4, but I think you need to do a little bit better than 2 or 3.
You were?
I was thinking 7.4.
Okay.
Our employees are good and I love them to death, but, people on, the people on Social Security didn't get that kind of a raise.
No, I would doubt most businesses gave it 7.5. I mean, maybe some did, but
You'd
I
be
know a couple
surprised.
years ago, a lot of places were raising because they couldn't find help, but I
Yeah,
don't know
well,
if that's kind of
there's still a
slowed
lot
down
of
some.
places with that, and they're trying to keep people happy and sticking around wherever they
Exactly.
can. I've heard of some 8s and 9s.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think you want to look at this as necessarily a raise, more as a way to retain what you have.
Retain.
Right. According to CNBC, Social Security benefits will increase by 8.7% in 2023.
You're doing better than what we thought.
Yeah.
First time they've gone up
I-
very much
I was
at
gonna say,
all.
they haven't
Yeah,
went
but
very
And
their
insurance went down.
Medicare,
Medicare went down.
Yes.
And then I'll give you this information, November 2022, just came out, 6.8% over the year, November to November, 6.8% increase. So it did,
It come down.
it came down a little bit, from November to November.
Another one. I'm at a 5 right now.
Huh?
I'm at a
I'm
5
waffling
right
between
now.
5 and 6.6.
I was gonna say, we're talking about 5s and 7s, 6.6, that odd little number in there, starting to sound all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
6.6 is not too far off from what a local did here.
I think that's kind of in between. I could be convinced probably to do 5, and I kind of lean towards the higher end of the scale, but I feel like that's somewhere in between, and then we'll see what it looks like in a year. Of course we will.
Right.
yeah.
Yes, you will. We'll be here.
I move to approve 6.6% hourly wage increase,
Second.
COLA.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 6-0. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting that
Thank you.
6.6.
I know, you're
How
welcome.
prescient.
I will remember to throw in random numbers
Say he's
and.
smarter than he knows, but
But no, this isn't said enough. I know the employees will be very grateful for this, and they will tell you themselves. But I'll say it again, it's thank you. Okay, let me get back to financials. All right, general fund is sitting at $726,289 with 1 month to go. We are coming close to spending all of our budget, but we will still have a good amount left in the bank account close to the year. And I forgot to bring my budget book, but I was fairly certain I budgeted carryover around $340,000. The reason why we're close to our budget is a lot of insurance in and out. We paid for repairs and then we got money back. Obviously, not all of it. We $1,000 deductible, and it didn't pay for everything. But that's a main component of it, especially in the general fund. But we're looking good to end the year. The water fund is at $457,586, which is lower than where we were at in 2021. I'm hoping we close the year where we began, which was 500 and, where'd you go? I think it was 511. But I think probably we either end up right in the middle. No, 533. Sorry, 515. There we go. We probably won't end at 515, but worst case scenario, we probably end about 457, where we're at right now. Sewer fund is at $461,468, which is about $200,000 higher where we're at in 2021. So good progress. Just means we have that money to spend on the project we should have been doing this year.
Yep.
Sales tax fund is at $1,071,704, which is also over 200,000 more than this time last year, but we have payments coming out for projects. So that'll go down before the end of the year. But still, sales tax is looking pretty good. And we contribute some of the state, one of the state statutes that got approved with, I think, online sales really helped the taxes. I mean, we've seen month after month of improvements from history, and it just helps, and it helps our roads get done. So that is a good thing. Does anybody have any questions about financials? I think we're going to end the year on a good note. Obviously, we don't want to. I mean, want to see a meltdown with snow, but overtime probably is going to happen in December if the snow happens. But we're in a good place for it. So that is what I have for financials.
I have one question about them.
Yes.
What happens with that since Hall Brothers never got those roads? Does it just carry over to the next year?
The money's there because we use street and highway funds, so it just builds up. And we use street and highway funds and sales tax because they're larger projects. And street and highway, that fund, that money just stays in the account and builds on itself. We could use it next year. I still have a conversation to have with Hall Brothers about what their plan is, and just come have a real talk with them. going forward, sort of thing, so, but, yeah, that money will be available, for use next year. And worst case scenario, we hit our budget limit and we just adjust our budget, because we have a great problem of more money than we planned for, to be in the budget, or be in the bank accounts, so, if we hit a ceiling, we just file a piece of paper. Okay, that, I think that is all, oh, that is not all, I forgot. Okay, so we approved, the municipal water conservation plan in August 2022. I submitted it to KDHE, or Department of Water. And they sent back, some requests. Some of it was clerical, the other was not. One of the requests was to add 2 goals under management practices, and they didn't specify which ones, so I had a list to choose from. And admittedly, it's low-hanging fruit, but we're doing quite a bit in management anyways. The first one, it's on page 5 of this, and I highlighted it. Number 8 is an addition, and basically it says a water rate structure designed to curb excessive use of water will be evaluated. And I set a date of May of 2024. And basically what that means is currently our rate declines as you use more water. To encourage water conservation, they want it to increase as you use more water. This just says we will evaluate the possibility of having that rate. It doesn't commit us to doing an excessive changing our rates. It says we're looking at it, and we'll look at it by May of 2024. The second one, number 9, is meters at each individual service connection will be replaced or tested for accuracy on a regular basis per industry standards, such as AWWA standards. If they are 1 inch or less, meters between 1 inch and 6 inches will be tested for accuracy at least once every 5 years, and meters will be repaired or replaced if its test measurements are not within industry standards, such as AWWA standards. This one's easy because we are almost through replacing every meter in the city. And those are, the meters we are installing are non-moving part meters, and the only thing that's going to hold them back is the battery life in 20 years. So we're fairly certain that these meters will test out, won't need regular repairs. At least that's the sales pitch. And the worst thing that's going to happen is the battery runs out in 20 years. And by that time, we will have a 5-year plan to replace them all again. Those are the items that I would like added into our conservation plan, and sent to the state so we can come up to their standards or their requests, so we can properly borrow money from KDHE.
That'd be important.
For the lagoons. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Motion?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to approve the water management conservation practices.
Second.
Okay. You want to tell them what policy
It
number?
will become policy, we're going to repeal policy A93, and we will replace it with A95. This policy's number will be A95.
All right, any further discussion? Yep. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Thank you. Hopefully this will be the last time I bring that for another 5 years, probably. I have nothing else.
Okay. All right. Standing committee reports. Street.
11th Road. coming up here this year, we're going to do it, correct?
Yes.
I would like to go out for bid on that if possible in January, and I want it completed by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I don't want anything dragging out past Thanksgiving. They got lucky this year on their projects.
Yeah.
I don't want to see anything after Thanksgiving and going on at Christmas time on road work in Marysville.
And
That's why they've got all summer to do it.
by Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, they were working on our roads also, I mean.
Well, I know, but they got lucky.
I mean-
It hasn't turned off cold on them.
Oh, they did. They had got nice weather and not many rain days.
Yeah.
They did get,
So,
I will agree, they did get lucky.
I don't think putting completion dates on things is a bad thing.
No, it's
And I
not.
think
No,
we need to
and
put a
we've
penalty
been
if they
kinda
don't
doing
reach
a-
them too.
And,
done by date on
this
last
one,
year's.
it's easier to do a completion date, when we use, the contracts that the engineers put together, because they have a little bit more experience in putting those completion dates, which is why we could get Frank Marshall Drive done the way we did.
Right.
And all the other larger projects. So yes, okay, I will talk with Rob about that. They are currently working on
I
our
know they're working
plans,
on it.
so
I'd like to see it done so we can get it out for bid.
Now is the time, yes.
Now's the time.
Now's the
Let's
time.
move on it.
Okay,
That way we can get it out to bid. They ought to be able to go to work on it just as soon as weather breaks.
yep,
And they'll have all summer to do it.
perfect.
okay. Anything else on the street? Nothing else? He's thinking.
I'll hold off.
See, you've usually got two or three of them. Water, wastewater.
How we doing on the lagoons? We getting anywhere with them?
Heard anything?
Yes,
Well,
I mean, we did, so they came up a couple weeks ago, did the electrical evaluation. We are now talking about how we can inspect that existing force main that was from the plant to the lagoons. And the engineer feels that that's a viable option. If it is not, because Kent said it was made out of the pipe that gets melted together, which is usually, it's the best. So far, it's the best we've used. So we're not concerned that it's crushed. If there are problems or leaks with it, the solution would be to use it as a casing, to put a smaller pipe through, and you're not boring a new pipe in. And so that's been the discussion. They are talking, when they came up, they also talked about how they're gonna design the strainer, the screen at the lift station, and got some good advice from Kent on where to place it. Make sure the road was clear, that goes through where the lift station's at right now in that fenced-in area. So they're hard at work on that. So those are the kind of questions that are coming up as of right now. I mean, they've done the geotechnical stuff. We are doing the 8.8 acres. That's what KDHE wants.
The biggest one.
The biggest one.
Good.
So
That was a smart move.
so that's what we're looking at. And he showed us how it was going to lay out, as far as the piping between, and we could shut off this, and just a knockdown on how maintenance could happen, and all that stuff. It's a long process. It's a big project. And if you want, I think Daniel would be more than happy to come up and give you a progress report.
Well, that would probably be nice, because it's been a few months.
Maybe second meeting in January, we can plan on that? Okay. I will,
Said it's been a long time since it's been up.
yeah. So we will just plan on,
Does a PowerPoint instead
Huh?
of, you care if he does a PowerPoint?
Nope.
instead of- If he wants to do a PowerPoint instead of having to hand everything out too, and
okay,
we got technology.
yes.
Yep, we got the streams.
Second, what is that day?
I don't have that. I'll get it. That's where we need to get that.
It's, I got it in my office, I just need to bring it in.
Oh, I can
We got
use
it
that
today.
bigger one.
Oh, I got it today.
The 23rd of January. 23rd of January. PowerPoint. Encouraged. That should give them enough heads up to have something ready to go. So, okay. Any other questions on that?
All broken pipes lately I've seen, repairs.
It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Wait till next week, the week after, they're gonna get worse.
Yeah, it's supposed to be what, high of 11 or 9 that one day?
Overnight lows, and it was a single digit, so
Yeah.
get their equipment.
Be good.
Anything else on water, wastewater? Parks and Rec?
Yeah,
Yes.
did we get the gates at Lakeview locked
Yes.
and Feldfield?
Lock gates. Okay.
There's no reason anybody needs to be down there this time of year.
Okay.
At Lakeview.
Hmm?
Should be the shed that's right there by the ball cage.
Okay.
Like the door, it's either open or gone.
I'll check it.
Well, I think it was, yeah, there was not much left to that
No,
door
it
as I
wasn't.
remember last, and that's
No,
been
it
a
wasn't
couple of
very
years
good
ago.
shape.
I saw it.
Yeah. Okay. Door on.
Lights on the trail are still doing their intermittent stuff.
Okay.
They're on, they're off, they're on,
They're in between.
they're off. The other night at 9:30, they were all off again.
You did replace the bulbs today.
It's
On
the way
Main
it's
Street
sounded
or
is
what?
probably the eye.
I was gonna say
This is
something about
from Walnut
7th Street corridor.
down
Yeah,
through
from
there.
Walnut Street south.
These are the acorns, the single lights.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
That's crazy.
yeah.
I noticed the other
other
day,
night, they come on, they run for a couple hours and they'll just
come off.
go off.
South of Walnut. South of Walnut.
South of Walnut,
South of Walnut.
yeah. And they may be off a couple hours and then they'll pop back on.
Okay.
They say.
All right. I forget when we replaced that
So,
eye.
I don't know.
It's probably been a while. So yeah.
It's been weird, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's real,
It's probably ready to go.
Yeah.
South of Walnut.
Yeah. So in the park.
yeah, in the park on the,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Trail.
Yeah, I did notice the other day I was on top of a building reclaiming some Freon, just sitting there looking as it was getting dark. And there were some lights I noticed out down Broadway on the globes that have 3 or 4 bulbs in, and there were several of those that I
Everything west of
noticed.
7 south.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
we'll get it.
We'll get it fixed.
Yeah. That should be fixed by tomorrow.
Yeah. Anything else on Parks and Rec? Cemetery and Airport? Police and Fire? Admin and Finance? Okay. We don't have any appointments. I think we need an executive session, correct, John?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
on litigation.
Who wants to read it?
I move the city council recess into executive session for consultation with an attorney on matters deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship about litigation or claims against the city to KSA 75-4319B2. This meeting will include the mayor, city council, city administrator, and the city attorney. The open meeting will resume in the city council chamber at,
How much time?
what do you think?
10 o'clock?
At 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Call this meeting back to order. No binding decisions were made. We will continue the meeting from here on. Guess we're at roundtable. Todd, you got anything?
What's the status of the daycare facility efforts?
Right now, steering committee is taking more control over the situation. They are planning a public meeting for January 11th at 6 p.m. At Land All Lanes. Just to get public input, and I think in the middle of this, they are trying to talk with current child care providers to make sure they're getting feedback from them. I think they got a list to talk to and go from there. Just make sure they're not rubbing anybody the wrong way and go in the right direction. But a big step is that public meeting on January 11th at 6 p.m. at Land All Lanes.
So can we as council members go?
Everybody can go. Yep, it's open to the public. Yeah, just don't be just voting. If you start voting in the back room, it's not going to look good. Especially when the league is going on at 7 o'clock. They'll probably figure it out.
And what time is it?
6 o'clock.
You have been given the green light to start drafting the bylaws and articles.
Yeah. So we are in the process of getting them a 501c3.
I had a couple people ask about it, so.
Yep. No, it's going, and there are some, they're trying to figure out the location as well. So that's, they got a good idea. They just got to talk to some people about it.
Okay. That's all I had.
Keith, nothing? Kyle? Parker?
Nothing.
Colleen? Kevin?
No.
I don't have anything either.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Next meeting is,
The 27th.
Which is Tuesday, because we celebrate Christmas on Monday.
Christmas holidays Monday.
okay.
And then there will be a meeting just for
A continuation. Yep.
And, yeah.
Meeting,
And that's
Yeah, we will.
gonna be on Thursday, we hope, like at 5 o'clock or something like that.
Unless you want during the day. We'd love during the day. That'd be great.
Except for
Sorry,
the,
I'm working.
because that way it gives us Friday to print the checks and get them in the mail.
So the 27th on a Tuesday. Okay.
27th, yeah, next meeting on 27th.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
Merry
yeah, because we
Christmas.
won't
Yeah.
be